Hi guys, what's up? In this video, I'll show you the difference between Yureka and the Samsung Galaxy Grand Max. Now both the handsets has some dissimilar orientations but a lot similar in many other aspects. So thought of making this video. So why the wait? Let us just dig deep into the technical and all the performance aspect for both the handsets and tell you the full difference of both of them. Now for both the handsets, there is a Yureka which is on the left hand side of the screen and the Grand Max which is on the right hand side of the screen. Both are comparatively new handsets and has been launched sometimes around the January 2015. Both the handset does comes in a grey variation and a white variation. Now the Yureka has a 5.5 inch of screen, whereas the Grand Max have only 5.25 inch of screen. Now both the handsets are similar in weight, but Yureka, although being a bigger screen, weighs around 155 gram, whereas the Grand Max weighs around 161 gram. Now, if I give you a physical overview of both the handsets, you will find for both the handsets the 3.5mm input jack is at the top. For the Grand Max, the Qualcomm branding is present over here. Now, at the bottom, similarly for both the handsets are the USB connector or the USB charger and the microphone. On the left hand side are the volume rockers. The orientations look somewhat similar for both of them. The buttons are clear, very vivid and looks good in both the handsets. On the right hand side is solely dedicated to the power on and off button for both handsets, and at the back for Grand Max you will find a 13 megapixel shooter with LED flash and the speaker just at the other end of the camera, whereas for Yureka is also a 13 megapixel shooter with a LED flash, but the speakers are on the bottom side of the back. Both the handsets have their respective branding at the back. On the front for Grand Max you will find the Samsung branding present over here. The earpiece, the front camera for 5 megapixel shooter. Similarly for Yureka, the branding is missing at the front, but the 5 megapixel shooter is similar to the Grand Max and also the earpiece. Similarly for both the handsets are the home button and the capacitive touch button for both the handsets, with the back button and the multitasking button that glows on touch. Now both the handsets does run on a 2500 milliampere of battery, and the orientations are somewhat similar for both the handsets. As you can see, both of them uses a micro SIM and both are duos variation handsets with supporting micro SD card up to 64 gigs for both the handsets. Now I have tested both the devices using a single SIM and a micro SD card for a continuous stretch of 1 week or so. Having said that, although figuratively the battery is similar for both of them, but Grand Max has a better standby time of 386 hours, whereas for Yureka it is 210 hours. But having said that, both are decent, good figures I must say. Now both the handsets does have a IPS panel, so the viewing angles are quite vivid and quite clear for both the handsets. Similarly, both of them has a LCD capacitive touch screen. Now the striking difference, for Yureka it has a Corning Gorilla Glass 3, whereas Gorilla Glass is missing for Grand Max for reason best known to Samsung. As Yureka boasts of a bigger screen, it has a pixel density of 267 ppi, whereas Grand Max has a pixel density of 280 ppi. Now here comes a contrasting difference, as because Grand Max being lower in size than Yureka but higher pixel density, you will see that the pixelites, the figures, each and every colors, contrast, brightness looks just perfect in Grand Max. Whereas for Yureka, having a bigger screen but the pixel density being lower than Grand Max, the display is fine, but there is some lag behind in the saturations and brightness points for Yureka. Now if I go to the notifications panel for both the handsets, you will find that both of the handsets does have the auto brightness sensor adjustments and also the ability to adjust brightness manually. Similarly, if we go to settings for both the handsets and navigate to about device for both the phone, you will find that both the Android handsets run on a version of 4.4.4, which is KitKat, and both are comparatively new to the market, so both of them will get the Lollipop updates as well. If I go to storage under settings for both the handsets, you will find that both of them are 16 gigs more, which is a lot of space comparing that both of them are budget handphones for their respective brands. And also additionally it supports a micro SD card up to 64 gigs. So space wise you get a plenty of space. Now similarly for Yureka, since it's powered by Cyanogen, obviously there are a lot of options, lot of tweakings, lot of things available under settings that you can use. You can configure your handset to your liking and also configure the buttons, the battery status, each and everything, the details which I have shown in the full review of this particular handset also. Now for Grand Max, it's a Samsung handset and the standard things that Samsung does under settings for any handset are present in this particular handset. So nothing much fancy, but just what is needed by the users. Now let us very quickly go ahead and see how both the devices performs with the Antutu benchmark test. Now here you will find a striking difference between the two handsets. Mind you, the Micromax Cyanogen powered Yureka scores at 29,339, whereas the Samsung Grand Max scores at 20,959. So there's a difference of 9,000 points, and that is not a mere difference. It does affect the performance of both the handsets to a great deal. Having said that, if I go to device info for both the handsets, you will find that the Samsung Galaxy Grand Max does run on a Qualcomm Snapdragon 410 chipset and has a quad-core processor that is clocked at 1.2 GHz with Cortex A53. It has a GPU of Adreno 306 and a RAM of 1.5 gigs only. Whereas for Yureka, it is loaded with a lot of technically specified configurations, like it has a Qualcomm Snapdragon 615 chipset with the provision for two processors. One for the first slot is a quad-core processor that is clocked at 1.5 GHz with Cortex A53, and the second slot is for a quad-core processor that is clocked at 1 GHz with a Cortex A53. So speed wise it does matters a lot, and it has a GPU of Adreno 405 and the 2 gigs of RAM, so that obviously comes much more handy for multitasking, gaming and a lot of other stuffs for Yureka. Now let us check the performance of both the handsets that has some decent figures with the chipsets and processors by playing a game of Asphalt 8 and see how it performs in each and every aspect for both the handset. So let me just go ahead and play Asphalt 8 at first for Yureka. Okay, as you can see that I have started playing Asphalt 8 in Yureka, but let me pause it just now and show you the difference between the two. Now I am selecting Nevada in here also. So I have started Asphalt 8 in Grand Max also. Now let me switch on the screen for both the handsets and show you the difference display wise that Yureka does have a tendency to get a higher brightness and higher saturation display. As you can see, I am running Asphalt 8 in both the handsets similarly. So but see, display wise both of them does looks good. There is no contrasting difference you will find. But having said that, the Grand Max obviously has a better look and feel than Yureka, as because Yureka does have a tendency to have a higher saturation and a higher brightness point compared to Grand Max. So the graphics does look a bit more reality in Grand Max. But performance wise there is no lag behind whatsoever in both the handsets, as I have also shown in the gaming review of the respective handsets in my other videos in the channel. Now comes the most important part for both the handsets is the camera. Both the handsets have a 13 megapixel shooter at the back and a 5 megapixel shooter at the front. Now for the Samsung Galaxy Grand Max, let us go ahead and check out the mode that a particular handset comes with. You will see that they have actually loaded a lot of different specific modes, so you can select them as per the photographs that you want to take in this particular modes. Whereas for Yureka, what they have done is that if you hit settings, you will find a lot of options to play around with the camera for, and mode wise also they have given you a lot of things to choose from. So that way I must say Yureka does score some most, but it's too early for a prediction. Let me go ahead and shoot a picture using the back camera for both the handsets. I'll use tap to focus and shoot the picture. Okay, the Yureka does detect the focus very easily, very quickly, very smoothly, and takes a picture also very quickly. Now let us go ahead and shoot a picture with the Grand Max. Similarly, I'll use tap to focus and shoot the picture. Okay, for Grand Max also it detected the focus very easily and very quickly. So now let's go ahead and check how the pictures came along. Now the Yureka, which is at the top of the video, and Grand Max, which is at the bottom, you can find the difference with your own eyes. That Yureka does have a tendency to turn bluish for reason best known to Micromax or Cyanogen. Now having said that, the picture, if I zoom in for both the objects very clearly, you will find that it does depicts the brightness, the contrast, the edges, the sharps very clearly, but there is a slight edge in Grand Max, as because it has a tendency to shoot accurate pictures as you see with your own eyes. So that way I must say that Grand Max does perform better than Yureka, even though having a 13 megapixel shooter for both of them. Now the video recording capability is 1080p for both the handsets, but the Yureka records video with a 60 frame per second, whereas Grand Max records with a 30 frame per second. Now let us go ahead and check the front camera for both the handsets, which is a 5 megapixel shooter. Now if I show you settings for both the handsets, in Grand Max you will find similarly there is a selfie, the animated GIF, and the white selfie, so you can take a group selfie with Grand Max. Again, for the front camera, even for Yureka, you will find a lot of settings, and in fact all the settings that was available for the back cameras also. So that way you get to play around with a lot of settings even for front camera with Yureka. Now Grand Max have a video recording capability of 1080p with the front camera, whereas for Yureka it records at 720p. Let us very quickly go ahead and shoot a selfie for both the handsets. At first I am shooting with Grand Max. I'm going ahead and shooting a selfie with Yureka. So I am keeping the Grand Max at the right hand side and Yureka at the left hand side. You will find that both the camera did a decent job with the 5 megapixel shooter. Now having said that, if you see for Grand Max, the sharpness, the edges, the contrast is a bit better than Yureka, but Yureka does not disappoint at all. Obviously it does give a nice output with the camera. So camera department, although both the handsets have similar figures, I must say that Grand Max does have a slight edge over it. The Samsung Galaxy Grand Max is available exclusively from Snapdeal at a price of 15,000 INR, which is something around 250 USD, whereas the Yureka is available only through flagship sale in Amazon and priced at 9,000 INR, that is something around 185 USD. So there are some drastic difference in pricing, and obviously there are huge differences in many aspects for both the handsets as I have shown you. But the Yureka although has a 2 gigs of RAM and for Grand Max it's 1.5 gigs, still I say that performance wise both the handsets are superb, excellent to use, no lag behind whatsoever. Playing games like Asphalt 8, Borderlands 3, any high-end games does not lag up. Display are decent for both the handsets. Yureka does get heated up on playing high-end games for a stretch of 20 minutes or so, whereas a Grand Max does not has that sort of a heating problem. So that way or the other, you will see that the pros and cons somewhere match up for both the handsets. Obviously Grand Max have Samsung branding with it. The Yureka is being marketed by Micromax. Support will also be given by Micromax. So people interested to go ahead and buy a budget handphone without spending the big bucks on other handsets, I prefer that it's your decision end of the day, but I personally feel that the battery standby time and the camera does give a Grand Max a slight edge over Yureka, and the heating issue does proves to be a bit of con for Yureka. Having said that, the next update of Cyanogen mode, I hope that the heating issue will be solved and many more updates will come along. So a lot of customizations will be available again for Yureka. So it's a mixed feelings, but let me know in the comment section below that which one you feel you prefer to go with. That's it guys, hope this video helps. Please do give a thumbs up, it does help the channel, and please stay subscribed to my channel. I'll catch you guys in my next video very soon. Bye for now.